I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
At Earthjustice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earthjustice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
One of the most profound movements and one of the first real social movement in American history was all about slavery, and that's labor. And it was about creating a different kind of democracy, different kind of way of thinking about the economy. And I think these battles aren't over. The African American portion of American wealth as a whole is 3% today. And the last time it was 3% was in 1868, 3 years after slavery. African Americans going back to before the Civil War, and the earliest African American spokespersons and writers and leaders like Frederick Douglass and others argued that the fundamental feature of the American economy was dehumanization. And they also argued that you can't have a democratic constitution and an economic system that degrades and exploits people. Many of the radical Republicans who fought for the Civil War and in the Civil War believed the same thing. I think the true intent of the 13th Amendment wasn't just to eliminate chattel slavery. It was to eliminate all forms of economic oppression and create what we would now call living wages for everybody. I think that was the true intent. But these things were overthrown. After the Civil War, there was a counter-revolution, Lincoln's assassination, the destruction of Reconstruction. We got segregation, which wasn't just about making white people feel superior, it was about a cheap labor force, which persisted. The 1963 March on Washington, where everyone sees Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, well, King wasn't head of that march. A. Philip Randolph was, the first black trade union president. The demand of the march was for jobs and freedom. Jobs came even before freedom. That sort of dream of a new kind of economy was tightly connected with thinking about voting rights and a new kind of politics. And when African Americans said we refuse to work as basically semi-slave laborers with no rights and no voting rights and no protections, and my generation said we're not going to do that work that our parents did, then employers started bringing undocumented immigrants into the country to work with no rights and no protections. And when the government said, well, what are we going to do with all these young folks like me who don't want to do this kind of semi-slave work? They didn't reform the economy. They said, let's lock them up. And we got mass incarceration. And so I think all of these things are related to our history. All of these things are part of the challenge of changing the system. And the system connects these things.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
On your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hi guys, good morning. This is The Bill Press Show. I'm Betsy Woodruff of The Daily Beast, in for Bill on this chilly, but not too chilly Friday morning here in Washington, D.C. We have such a fun show coming up that I'm super, super excited about. I hope you're super excited too. We have Lucia Graves from The Guardian, who's going to be talking from South Carolina about some of the fun adventures going on with the Democratic primary there. We have Rachel Rubine from National Journal, who is their healthcare reporter. I know very little about healthcare. If you know more about healthcare, Rachel probably knows more than both of us combined, so that's exciting. And one person I'm really pumped about is Elena Plott, a Buckley Fellow at National Review. She did a ton of great reporting from Nevada when basically the Nevada Republican caucuses became a massive garbage fire earlier this week. Yeah, basically like total nuclear meltdown.
It was
there.
a mess.
I know. Yeah, basically like Yucca Mountain except for the Republican caucuses. So Elena's going to be talking about that. Elena's a Buckley Fellow. I used to be a Buckley Fellow at National Review. So,
nice.
Yeah, so there's kind of a special continuity there.
I'm going to feel like a really dumb person in the room then with you two.
We're going to be talking a lot.
Yeah, you have big brains in here. Man.
Yeah, exactly. Break out all the 7-syllable words that we've got listed. We also have Daniel Strauss from Politico, who is one of my favorite people ever. And we have a really weird segment at the very end that I don't really know what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be interesting. We have the founders and co-owners of a restaurant called Toli Moly that is sort of an interesting, trendy, hip, like Burmese dessert, I think. Is that right?
Jamie, you've had it. I haven't had it, but it's a Burmese dessert situation.
Yeah, so it's a pop-up restaurant, and they don't have a brick-and-mortar space yet. So, part of the reason they're coming on the show today, telling people all about Fuda.
Fuda, obviously.
Fantastic. Come on.
I love Fuda.
Fantastic Burmese dessert.
What is it? I still can't figure out exactly what it is. It looks like a different variation.
It's somewhere in between bubble tea and an ice cream sundae. That's all I'm gonna say.
Cool. Well, that makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense to me either. It coming out of my mouth, but
I'm really confused. But good. But cool. That's good. BillPressShow.com. We are live on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. You can watch Free Speech TV on DirecTV and Dish. On Twitter, we're at BP Show. I'm at Woodruff Betts. You can call in if you have thoughts or feelings or stuff you're working through that you want to talk about. 866-55-PRESS. That's 866-557-7377. Peter Ogburn is our wonderful executive producer. Good morning, Peter.
Hi, Betsy.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
So good. Jamie Benson.
Thank you for doing this, by the way.
Thank you for having me. So fun. Hey, Jamie. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jamie's running the board. Ray Rogers will be taking your phone calls. So when you call in to share your wishes and hopes and dreams, she's the one you get to talk to first of all. That's awesome. And Cyprian Boulding is our video operator. So it's good stuff. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, I think we have a full court press.
Let's do it.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Hey, if you like Bernie Sanders and you like marijuana, your life just got a little bit better. They now have a Bernie Bowl. It is a Bernie Bowl, a little place where you can smoke your pot, created by one of Bernie Sanders' supporters named Ariel Zinman from Portland, Oregon. You can buy them from a company called Stonedware.
Of course.
Right?
Obviously.
Of course.
It would be weird if it wasn't called stoneware.
It's a little like ceramic glass pipe that has a little bowl on it. You can put it in there, and it has the Bernie Sanders logo across the pipe. Is Bernie 2016. They are currently sold out because, of course, they are.
Obviously.
But you could buy one when they're back in stock for $60, which is frankly a lot of money for one.
Yeah,
It's like a little piece. It's not a very big piece. $60, and they say that 10% of those proceeds will go straight to the Sanders campaign.
I worry that there could be some campaign finance laws being violated there. This sounds like it could potentially be an illegal corporate contribution.
Right.
I don't want Sanders to get in the pocket of little pot.
In the pocket of little pot. Yeah, exactly.
Also, how do you believe Sanders fans and pot fans overlap?
Weird, right? Isn't that curious?
Interesting.
Phil Knight is the co-founder and chairman of Nike, and earlier this week, he made a big pledge. He pledged to Stanford University $400 million to create a scholarship there at Stanford to recruit graduate students around the globe to take a look at poverty, climate change. In other words, issues that he says feel insurmountable, right? Like nobody's really has an answer for. Right. He wants to throw a bunch of money at it and see if we can get a lot of people here to try and fix that problem.
So fixing climate change, just do it. Wink, wink.
Right, there you go. Just do it. Right, what's the holdup? The Knights Hennessy Scholars Program is what it's called. Again, built off of the $400 million injection from Phil Knight. It is the largest donation from a single person for a scholarship ever. So
that's cool.
Put his money where it counts. And this is an interesting story because if you came up in the era of DARE, right? D-A-R-E, DARE to keep kids off drugs.
Yeah.
The little school program that tells kids all about how dangerous drugs are.
I never knew what that stood for.
I still don't know what it. I still don't know what it stands for. But yeah, so they don't even explain on their website. I'm at their website. But this is interesting. This shows that the times they are a-changing. I know these are two weed stories in the same full court press, but they have taken marijuana off of their list of gateway drugs. They have a page on their website for gateway drugs, and they say that this we all know what a gateway drug is. It opens the door for the use of other harder drugs. That's right, girl. So they had tobacco, alcohol, and marijuana, and they took marijuana off. So
Clinton still says marijuana is a gateway drug.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do, but DARE says that they're going to take that off because it's gone so mainstream, and plenty of people are using it successfully and without problems. So they say alcohol and tobacco, those are the only two gateway drugs that they list on their website.
I like the idea of using marijuana successfully. How was your marijuana use? Very successful.
It was hit or miss, like marijuana use.
Hit or miss. Got
it.
That was good.
There we go. I didn't even try that.
It's going to be such a good morning. I'm really excited about it. We do have a really fun show, but I'm going to start the day off talking about a story that's actually super serious and sad. So we're kind of having a dramatic tonal change here, but this is really important. This is a story that got some national attention about a year ago, and since then has kind of been sidelined. Hasn't had as much of a focus, hasn't been kind of a central part of how we talk about the 2016 campaign. But it's almost like something from House of Cards or from a Coen Brothers movie. It's so unusual and really heartbreaking. But it's something important, and it's also something that's starting to potentially impact the presidential race a little bit more, thanks to some interesting flagging decisions from Donald Trump's campaign. So there's everything here. It's the story, the really heartbreaking story of the death of Tom Schweich. Tom Schweich was a Missouri state auditor, fairly prominent person in Missouri state politics. John Danforth, who of course is the elder statesman of Missouri Republican politics, was his mentor. He was a really up-and-coming guy, not super young, but moving forward, becoming increasingly prominent, increasingly influential. And he was running this is back in 2015, he was running in the Missouri gubernatorial primary. He was the front runner. Good position to potentially become the party's nominee for this 2016 gubernatorial race. And Schweich ended his life a year ago today. He killed himself, which is, anytime that happens, it's incredibly heartbreaking. It's a loss. Doesn't matter what precipitated that. It's crushing. So we have to say that first off. But the circumstances of his death, I think, have something interesting to tell us, or raise some interesting questions about political culture, both in Missouri and sort of nationally. So Schweich, some of his ancestors are Jewish, but he's not Jewish. He said he identified himself as Episcopalian. John Danforth, who was his mentor, also Episcopalian. And as Schweich's primary was gearing up, the supporters of one of his opponents, Catherine Hanaway, one of these supporters started telling people that Schweich was Jewish. Schweich thought that this was part of a concerted anti-Semitic whisper campaign, that there were people trying to stoke up anti-Semitic sentiment in Missouri to discredit him, to damage him, and to keep him from being competitive in the primary. He found this incredibly disturbing, incredibly deeply upsetting. Schweich also was incredibly disturbed by a radio ad that came out about the same time. The radio ad is it's narrated by a Frank Underwood sound alike, by a man who sounds like Frank Underwood. And this man talks about Schweich and it really describes what Schweich looks like in a way that's very, very condescending, kind of cruel, and said that if Schweich became the gubernatorial nominee, he would be squashed like a bug. So it's an ad that's obviously not kind or pretty, as tends to be the case in these campaigns. But Schweich found it incredibly disturbing. Danforth, who I spoke with for the story I read about this yesterday, said that he talked to Schweich 2 days before he ended his life, that Schweich was incredibly disturbed, and Schweich mentioned what he believed was an anti-Semitic whisper campaign, and he also mentioned this radio ad as the two things that were really weighing on him, that were pressing quite hard, making his life really challenging. Schweich ended his life 2 days later, and then part of the reason that we're talking about this story, today's the 1-year anniversary of his death, but also the man who was responsible for the radio ad that Schweich mentioned was a man named Jeff Rowe. Jeff Rowe is Ted Cruz's presidential campaign manager. Rowe has long been a figure in Missouri Republican politics. He's won a couple of statewide elections. He's won a whole bunch of congressional races, local races. He's a very, very influential, very powerful guy, and he sort of has this bad boy, hardball reputation. New York Times had an A1 profile of him a few days ago that didn't mention Schweich's suicide in much depth. They touched on it, but didn't really go into it. But Rowe has this reputation as someone who, there are rumors that people hire Rowe so that he won't work for their opponents and won't make ads against them. He has this reputation as someone who's willing to do anything to get his candidates elected. I think that's something that he'll even say. And John Danforth, who of course is a significant figure in Missouri Republican politics and American Republican politics, former U.S. Senator, Danforth, I spoke with him, and he delivered the homily at Schweich's funeral. And in that homily, he explicitly blamed Missouri Republican political culture for being so toxic that it ended Schweich's life. An editorial from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch that came out in the wake of that homily said, the auditor might have pulled the trigger, but the bullies who were campaigning against him held the gun. Danforth, when I spoke with him yesterday, said that he actually blames Rowe for Schweich's suicide. Now, that is not a consensus view. In Missouri, of course, there are plenty of Republicans, conservatives who say that's not appropriate. A radio ad, you can't draw a causal link there. But one thing Danforth said to me that I thought was really interesting was, when we were speaking yesterday, he said, I think Schweich was probably too sensitive to be in elective politics, but so what? Does that mean we only want the rough and tumble people in politics? I don't think so. Is it okay to pick on somebody who's sensitive? I don't think so. And I think that raises a really interesting question, which is, at what point does American political culture become so caustic and angry and so focused on the lowest common denominator that good people and sensitive people and people who don't want to deal with what Schweich had to deal with just decide not to run? By all counts, Schweich was a decent human being, worked hard, honest guy, one of the good guys. And if you're somebody who's in a similar situation as Schweich, if you're maybe someone who already has perhaps some mental health struggles, some personal demons, but your heart's in the right place and you have the skill set and you have the talent to run for office and to serve your country, but you look at political culture like we see in Missouri and like we see in a lot of states around the country and think, I'm not going to run. I think that's not good. I think that's a problem. So, a year looking back, it's a really sad story, but I think it's an important question for all of us to bear in mind. Of course, in democracies, that means each of us has a tiny little sliver of power, but that also means we all have a tiny little sliver of responsibility. And I would say we're all responsible for what our political cultures look like to the extent that we can influence them. This St. Louis Post-Dispatch story said that they hoped Schweich would end up being a martyr for the cause of better politics. Danforth told me yesterday that he didn't think Missouri politics had gotten better. Of course, it's never too late for politics to improve. It's never too late to see things get better. And I hope that now looking back, sort of looking at the fallout of all this, that's something we can all think about going forward. So, this is the Bill Press Show, and I'm Betsy Woodruff. Back in a sec.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
The CEO of Power Swaps. And if you want to white...
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper-surveillance of the police. Their police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey guys, this is Bill Press Show. I'm Betsy Woodruff of the Daily Beast, in for Bill this morning. Last night was super fun, unless your name is Jamie Benson and you're super hungover right now. Or maybe there's a connection there. And I did the opposite of what Jamie did. I sat at home by myself eating chili and watching the Republican debate, which is has become really, really normal.
You
for
make
me.
smart adult decisions.
Are debate drinking games still a thing, or is it things have just become so ridiculous now that it would be too dangerous?
I don't think you can drink about things anymore.
No.
Yeah, I mean, the first question was like, how many people is your deportation force going to deport? Like, it's not. I mean, there's
whoa,
it's,
too heavy.
Yeah. So Rubio gave his closing speech in the debate last night, saying we need an end to silliness. No more silly things. Silly season is done. However, in the debate, he had an interesting comment about Donald Trump and his employment. He noted that if Trump's dad hadn't given him a bunch of money, he'd be doing another kind of work.
If he hadn't inherited $200 million, you know where Donald Trump would be right now? Selling watches in Manhattan.
That's a heavy hit, though. I mean, that for Rubio, right, to punch that hard.
I know.
I mean, Rubio had a very good night last night.
He really did.
Yeah.
He really did. He didn't suck. And within like 10 seconds of him making that comment, the Rubio campaign put up a for sale page on their website that was like a picture of like a broken, crappy Walmart watch. And it was like, for $10, you can get this watch Donald Trump would have been selling. Just kidding. We aren't actually selling these watches, but please give us $10 anyway. Which is like slightly less sad than them trying to adopt out all their staffers. At one point, the adopt a staffer page let you adopt staffers for free.
That's terrible.
So me and Swin, one of my coworkers, just adopted like 30 of them. I don't know. We thought it was really funny at the time. In retrospect, now that I'm saying it, maybe not as funny, but whatever, you know. Thanks.
Who among us hasn't gotten drunk and adopted a couple of interns, right? Like staff members. It happens.
You know there's going to be one or two Rubio fans that are like, my watch hasn't come in the mail.
Yeah, right.
I really wanted one. Yeah. I know. It's good. It's fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting seeing Rubio like be a live human being last night.
The real question,
a little shouty.
The real question, I think, is it enough and is it in time, right? Because Rubio sort of notoriously got beat up pretty hard in a previous debate by Chris Christie. Rubio still hasn't won a primary, and he is sort of the last best hope for a lot of conservatives. So he had to have a good night. He did have a good night, but is that enough to carry on until Tuesday? Probably not.
Yeah, he sort
just
of woke
out of
up
the nick of time.
Totally, right. Right as soon as the moment had passed, he showed up. One thing that I really did enjoy last night was like whenever he went back and forth with Donald Trump and they were kind of shouting, he just got this big glowing grin on his face. Like, I wish I ever could experience the kind of happiness that Rubio is experiencing when he was like, Donald Trump, actually, you're not very smart, and his face just lit up like 1,000 shining suns. It was I don't know, it was kind of a nice thing.
He finally found his like campaign, right? He finally found out what he's really good at.
I know, teensy weensy bit late in the game, but hey,
little late.
It happens. This is the Bill Press Show. I'm Betsy Woodruff, in for Bill, and we will be back in a flash.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that.
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
I love the BP in 3 thing. Like,
It's
as
great.
If your attention span isn't totally hosed enough already. Yeah.
We're here to ruin that attention.
It should be like BP in 3 seconds.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
realistically.
that's next.
BP Vine. Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS or 866-557-7377. We might even have more than 3 minutes to talk about things, which is quite an exciting prospect. Anyway, we were talking about the debate last night and sort of what it all means going forward. One thing that I think is a really fun question from the debate is that Trump talked about how he's going to win Hispanics and how the Hispanics love him and don't even worry about it. He's got this locked up, which is an interesting assertion because it is a provable assertion. You know, a lot of stuff that Trump says is just kind of him talking out of his butt isn't the kind of thing where you can be like, prove the Mexicans are going to pay for the wall. He can be like, well, wait and see, right? But as far as like whether or not Hispanic voters support him, we can actually figure out if that's true. And the answer is, brace yourselves. Not really. No, kind of the opposite.
Oh, 3 Pinocchios.
Not even a little bit.
3 Pinocchios.
The Washington Post has a story up on a poll they did in conjunction with Univision that, shocker, this is kind of the crazy headline of the day. Trump's negatives among Hispanics are rising. And I believe, of all the Republican candidates, he's the one that does worse with them. One thing that I think is really fun and interesting about this is that in a head-to-head matchup, which, these matchups aren't worth the paper they're printed on because the general isn't for so long.
Right.
But they're still fun and they give us something to talk about here at 6:35 in the morning. head-to-head matchups of the Republican top candidates versus Hillary Clinton among Hispanic voters, Trump does the worst, losing to Hillary 73 to 16%. Hillary would get 73% of the Hispanic vote. Trump would get 16%. I assume the 16% of Hispanics who'd vote for Donald Trump are like every single Hispanic who's ever been to a Trump rally and literally nobody else. It would be my guess. Really special and fun. But so I did a story earlier this week about the Republican Party's autopsy that you all might remember from about 3 years ago. And what's fun about that is it came out a few months after Mitt Romney got shellacked back in 2012. And the RNC started, racking its brains, pulling at its hair and saying, how come we're doing so bad? How come people don't want to vote for us? What is our problem? We're really confused. And they decided to commission this thing called the Growth and Opportunity Project that everyone immediately started calling the autopsy. Yeah. Obviously.
Right.
Obviously, yeah. Spent a lot of money on it, spent a lot of time on it, and what they concluded was that Republican presidential candidates needed to use less divisive rhetoric, speaking to Hispanics, needed to be more open on social issues, and needed to take on a tone that wouldn't alienate minority communities.
That was the big takeaway. Like that. I remember
those were the
quite
headlines.
well.
That was it. Yeah, it was like, here's how we're gonna win. So Donald Trump was like, okay, I'm doing the exact opposite of that. And now he's kind of like the favorite to be the nominee, right?
Yeah.
So it's just another really fun example of the DC graybeards having interesting theories that have very little bearing on
But it's also, I think, a disconnect between Republican voters, right, and the rest of the electorate sometimes, right? Because if you want to win the electorate, you're right, you really can't run around saying you're going to ship everybody back to Mexico.
Right. You can't run around saying we're going to make things so bad you're going to want to leave.
Right. Which is
literally what self-deportation is.
Yeah.
We're going to make you hate your life so much.
Right. So it's not good for Republicans in terms of winning an election. But at the same time, it's what a lot of voters actually believe in. So it's almost like they can't help themselves.
It's like what the majority of voters believe
but vote against their best interests, right? Like if they which is an even bigger theme, right? But it's hard, I think, for them to see the big picture of, this guy Donald Trump is an interesting guy, but the things he says goes directly against everything that we know to be a winnable formula.
And it's also interesting because I think there's probably some truth to the idea that the Republican Party base, people that are going to vote no matter what, people that are really excited about this stuff, is very different from the country at large.
Yeah.
And I think increasingly we're getting to the point where, at least if you're running for president, you can't get the majority of the Republican Party base to support you and also have the majority of non-Republican independent Americans vote for you in numbers that would get you to win. Speaking of connecting with American voters,
Segue.
I have a really important question. Segue. I have a question about something that was said last night that did not connect with me, but is really interesting. Ben Carson, in one of the 2 times that he talked over the course of the evening, had something to say about assessing a person's character, assessing their ability to be president, and this is what he said.
I would go through and I would look at what a person's life has been. What have they done in the past? What kind of judgments have they made? What kind of associations do they have? That will tell you a lot more than an interview will tell you. The fruit salad of their life is what I will look at.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Has anybody ever heard someone talk about the fruit salad of your life? If you know what this means, I'm not even kidding. Please call us on the phone. 866-55-PRESS. I Googled it right away. I was like, is this something that older folks refer to?
Yeah, I'm out of the demo here. I don't understand.
Strawberries or the teenage years, the kiwis, the middle-aged.
Hangover thoughts. But I was just incredibly perplexed by that. I don't know. It's sort of a fun question.
It's going to be, I will miss Ben Carson on some level, right? It's time for, Ben Carson to just sort of cash in his chips, right?
I know.
And guys made a lot of money, made a lot of people a lot of money running for president.
Yeah.
But let's be clear, that's why he's doing this.
Right. He's like a little mini one-man indry there.
Yeah.
I don't know if people get this. So one thing that I didn't understand about politics at all until I started covering it as my job is that anytime a candidate buys an ad, it's not just people that are buying it that make money. It's the person who buys the ad, the person who designs the mail piece, the person who commissions it. all those people are getting a little bit of a cut. So the more money you're spending, especially on those mailers that sort of fill up people's mailboxes, a lot of people you never see, you don't know who they are, they're never on cable, are making a crap ton of money off of it. And they are making so much money off Ben Carson.
God bless
it's really
America.
lucrative. I know.
God bless America.
It's a lot of fun. I'm Betsy Woodruff. This is the Bill Press Show, and we'll be right back. I think.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap. But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey guys, I'm Betsy Woodruff, and we are back on the Bill Press Show. We have Lucia Graves from The Guardian with us, which is so exciting. Hey Lucia, how's it going?
Hey Betsy, it's good.
Good. So you're in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, I'm in Charleston today. I was covering Hillary Clinton yesterday, and she had a press event in Charleston in the evening. But she was also all over the state earlier in the day. So I was in Columbia, South Carolina before this, and I've just been sort of trying to keep up with her schedule.
Okay, nice. That's really fun. Charleston is probably one of the best places.
Say hello to Charleston. It's my hometown. I miss it very much. It's wonderful.
Hi, Charleston.
Oh, I will. Yeah, I was very happy to get to come here.
Good, that's awesome. So how was yesterday? What happened? Obviously, we were all focused on the fact that Rubio yelled at Trump for like 30 seconds. Any standout big moments for Hillary, or is it pretty much what you were expecting to see?
Well, the event that I went to in the morning was about education, and that is a topic that Obama in 2008 really emphasized when he was campaigning in South Carolina. There's something called along the I-95 corridor. It's called the Corridor of Shame because the schools there are so underfunded and dilapidated, and largely black communities. Obama spent a lot of time there and won South Carolina with 44 out of 46 counties. And so this year, Hillary is really getting that message right, or getting it better and spending more time talking about that issue in those places. She was in Kingstree yesterday, and so I was with her for that. And I actually didn't go to her evening events. I understand she was interrupted by a protester saying, that she was for the 1994 crime bill, her husband's legislation, and sort of holding her to account for that and saying she's talking about making the prisons smaller now, but in 1994 she wanted to funnel even more money into them, and which Hillary can we trust? And I think that made a pretty big splash.
Yeah, that's a super interesting sort of tension there. And you got a story up on The Guardian right now with the headline, Bernie Sanders, police should be obliged to report all officer-involved deaths. Can you talk a little bit about the sort of some of the dynamics there, and especially about where Bernie is at on this question of police departments being required to report to some sort of federal oversight arm anytime a police officer kills a civilian, I guess, is that the word? Civilian?
Yeah, sure.
And sort of where he's at versus where Hillary's at on that?
Yeah, well, that's an issue that the Guardian has been interested in and has been tracking specifically. And it used to be that police departments there was no central database where you could go and figure out what officer-involved deaths had happened around the country. And now there's the beginning of some tracking of that, but it's still voluntary for police departments to report any officer-involved killings. And so what Bernie Sanders said in this press conference, when we asked him specifically on this, is that he thinks it should be mandatory, and that he would support legislation to make it mandatory for police departments to do that. And that goes farther than anything Hillary Clinton has talked about. And he's definitely trying to improve his image on police brutality and around sort of racial issues. It's a big deal for him nationally, but also in South Carolina, he's losing the black vote here 3-1. He'll be lucky, I think, if he loses 2-1 on Saturday with among African Americans.
Is there any way he pulls off a win in South Carolina at all? Is that mathematically possible?
I mean, anything's possible, but I would be shocked. In every poll, he's sort of behind by 30 points. He's doubled it down in the double digits to Hillary. Like a lot of states, he started out 50 points behind, but I think he's narrowed it to something more like 30 points in most polls.
That's not bad. That's an improvement.
It's definitely an improvement, and that is how he's casting it. I think he's trying to sort of temper expectations for a loss in South Carolina, and his schedule would certainly reflect that he's paying attention to March 1st states. And there's not very much time between the Saturday primary and Super Tuesday. There's just a couple days in there, and there's 11, almost a dozen states, and there's just one of them. He doesn't have Bill Clinton as a surrogate. So I think Hillary's strategy of really staying in South Carolina and blanketing the state, she had 4 press events yesterday, and she has multiple events today, is part of her strategy for sure, to give her sort of a just definitive win here and momentum going into Super Tuesday. But she also has a very powerful surrogate operating on her behalf that Bernie Sanders just doesn't have the luxury of.
I mean, I would put Killer Mike on par with Bill Clinton, but I guess I can understand that not everyone's there.
Totally.
Going back to the police question, though, do you get a sense of what the argument is against having some sort of federal record-keeping tool to count this information? Because the federal government tracks so many other crime statistics, it's not like it would be breaking ground for them also to keep track of this, right? Do you know what the case against it is?
I think that the government, the Justice Department, just hasn't put the infrastructure in place. I think morally it's pretty indefensible, and that is in part why The Guardian has made such a point around this. There is no moral argument for why they shouldn't have to report this. It's just sort of like putting the framework in place and like creating enough public pressure for that to be the case. It hasn't gotten anything close to the political attention that it's gotten in the last couple of years. So I think that just by drawing attention to the issue, just by asking these questions, just by making a whole. The Guardian has like a counted. Mm-hmm. It's called the Counted, and it sort of like tries to have an impromptu tracking of these killings around the country as a stand-in for government, which is ridiculous and shameful, and when won't exist, I think, in the future. But it just takes time.
Yeah, that's such an interesting problem. And you were talking a little bit earlier about Hillary sort of focusing on education issues in the I-95 corridor. Is that something Bernie's talked about much at all? I mean, thinking about sort of the debates and his stump speech, I feel like education doesn't come up very often. Am I missing that, or is that sort of part of his pitch?
He does talk about it. I think that usually he talks about it in terms of paying for college and student debt, and particularly, free college, saying that students should have, everyone should be able to go to college for free, that it's like healthcare, it's a right, not a privilege, and so that has been sort of his focus. And when he did his one big rally, he hasn't been in South Carolina at all this week. He came for the town hall and then held a very early impromptu press conference the morning after with no community members and took off. His one big rally was on Sunday at a college campus in Greenville, and those were the kinds of messages he was driving home there, were about how to pay for college. But a lot of the issues around the public school system, the like overwhelmingly black students who attend there and just don't have any options to get out or go anywhere else or have access to better teachers, or even, schools with heating and basic things like that. Those sort of rights-based issues haven't been as central to his message, and he's not emphasizing them here either. And he didn't make the same mistakes as Hillary Clinton did in 2008. So I think that her ground game here reflects things that she learned running against Obama, and it's very much Obama country here. Certainly for the Democratic base, which is, I think, 60% black. People love him. People keep photos of the first family in their offices. One woman I was talking to at the Brooklyn Baptist Church, where both in Columbia, where both Hillary and Sanders have campaigned, had blown up laminated front pages of the newspapers from the first day Barack Obama took office. And so, yeah, that's the culture here. And to the extent that people remember she ran against him, they don't like that, but she's really driven home the message that she's going to build on what Obama did and build on Obamacare, and people, that seems to be resonating.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be helping her out. Well, thanks a bunch, Lucia. We really appreciate it. Fun talking, and stay safe on the trail. I'm Betsy Woodruff. This is The Bill Press Show, and we'll be back in just a second.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. Will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, You've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed it is. This is Betsy Woodruff, in for Bill. So I was thinking about the debate last night, and I think looking back, now that I've had, an hour or two in the morning to clear my head and gain some valuable perspective, I think far and away my favorite part was when Trump started talking about how he had to import foreign workers on HB2 visas in Florida because Americans just didn't want to work in the really hot Florida weather. I just thought that was amazing. It's like, dude, are you kidding?
He just sort of says these things. And I keep thinking eventually he's going to say something that's going to hurt him, but...
You keep thinking that. And
I mean, that is a dumb comment.
Dumb thing to
it's a dumb
say.
thing to
That's
say.
like, and I mean, I understand this whole argument that Trump's doing his own thing and he's authentic and he doesn't have anybody helping him out and he can say whatever he wants. But there's a point where some staffer should be like, maybe don't go full jobs Americans won't do.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe stay away from doing that. That's not a thing you should
ease
be
up
doing.
a little bit there.
Have you met his staffers though?
That's true. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Stephen Miller, who's his policy guy, used to work for Sessions. Like, he knows this stuff inside out. I mean, probably nobody has enough more facts in his brain about these programs.
I think more people need
than
to take
Stephen.
answers from Sam Clovis.
I think that's
is my favorite.
Wilford Brimsley.
The
I
Iowa
love
Whisperer.
Clovis.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think that's a good point. I'm Betsy Woodruff. This is the Bill Press Show. We are done with the first hour. We got 2 more hours to go. It's going to be so fun. Be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aqua Force. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aqua Force going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And I'm Betsy Woodruff, in for Bill on this crisp Friday morning. Coming up this hour, it's going to be so fun. We have Elena Plott from National Review. Just got back from Nevada. She's going to talk about all the calm and sane things that happen with the Nevada Republican caucus, so that's exciting. You can watch us live on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Free Speech TV is available on DirecTV and Dish. Talker is youtube.com/TawkrTV. Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. Give us a call if you have any thoughts or feelings you'd like to share, or if you're upset by anything that we said, or if we're getting our facts wrong. 866-55-PRESS. That's 866-557-7377. Peter Ogburn is our executive producer. Good morning again, Peter.
Good morning, Betsy. How are you, my dear?
I'm delighted.
You're doing a wonderful job
Get
in the guest host chair. We love having you in. So good.
Awesome. Jamie Benson is running the board. Good morning, Jamie.
Hey, it's your first show in the new studio, too.
Yeah,
You like the new studio?
It's so fancy. I'm kind of uncomfortable.
So you got the Capitol building behind you. It's
a little
live
too
feed.
Hollywood for me.
Have you seen Jamie has his own camera now? He's got his own little Jamie cam.
Oh, wow,
man.
the Jamie cam. That's awesome.
They didn't used to have one of these, so now everybody. And by the way, let's talk about the mail Jamie gets from the Jamie cam.
Oh, yeah?
He's a big hit among a certain sector of gay male who loves them some Jamie Benson.
That's awesome.
I got fans. What can I say?
What can you say? Hey, good for you. It's good. Take what you can get. And by the way, we have Rachel Rubine in studio, which is so exciting. Rachel Rubine is a healthcare reporter at National Journal. I almost want to say National Review. Do people ever ask you if you work at National Review? When I was at National Review, people asked me if I worked at National Journal all the time.
I get that all the time.
That's good. It's good to know it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
You can follow Rachel on Twitter @Rachel_Jen, Jen with 2 N's. And we have a great hour coming up. But first, we have some full court press.
This is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. A new study by the Maine Syracuse longitudinal study, which we've all read, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited they have a new one out.
Yeah. They have a new one out. Totally have a new one out. This one actually takes a look at the consumption of chocolate and how it affects the human body. And it turns out chocolate is pretty good for you, at least when it comes to cognitive brain function. They say that in moderate amounts, combined with an otherwise healthy lifestyle, a little bit of chocolate.
Not like that's going to happen.
I was going to say, whoops, too bad I don't have the otherwise healthy lifestyle. We can throw that out the way. But it's very good for your brain, right? A little bit of chocolate goes a long way when it comes to brain health. So
that's why I ate that chocolate donut this morning, because my brain is only half operating this morning.
Jamie has a head full of scrambled eggs this morning. Like, that's all he's got left for brains. And I'm not far behind, frankly. But so eat some chocolate.
You party with Lindsey Graham, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
You hear this Tinder thing? Everybody's using Tinder, right?
Yeah.
You hear this thing?
Tinder. Yeah.
Tinder.
I know.
Tinder. All right, so they
you
released...
Olds, you don't know how to pronounce your internet apps.
I know.
Get out of here.
Tinder. I'm of a certain age. But Tinder released a list of the top 15 most right-swiped jobs for men and women.
Probably journalists, right?
I would think
reporter, journalist.
I'm sorry. Journalists not even in the top 15 for men or women. Number one for men. Any guesses?
Doctor?
Pediatric
doctor?
Firefighter is on the list at number 3.
All
Doctor is number 4.
Uh-huh.
TV radio personality is number 5.
Who the hell puts TV radio personality? Yeah, Jamie knows about that.
Yeah. Number 1, though, for men, a pilot. You want to get right swipes, become a pilot, I guess. I don't know.
Where do flight attendants rank for females?
For females? That's a good question. That's number 13.
All right.
Number 13. Number 1 on the list for women, most swipe right situations for women. Stripper, I'm sorry, is not on the list. Yeah, there was just a couple of them on the list, and that was all from Jamie. Number 1 on the list, physical therapist. Physical therapist is number 1. Interior designer is number 2. And if you put this in your bio on Tinder, you're probably sort of a jerk, but founder and entrepreneur.
Hate it. Gotta go.
That's a pretty big power play. So anyway, if you're any of those things, you're in luck, because that gets the most swipes.
Well, I would assume healthcare reporter is right up there. We have a healthcare reporter.
Yeah. Journalism very far out of the list. I'm afraid. Yeah.
So many good segues. It's awesome.
And one more story. Finally, last night, Steph Curry is very good at basketball. Breaking news. From the Golden State Warriors. They played the Orlando Magic last night, and he not only scored 51 points, but he hit 10 three-pointers. I'm not very good at math, but that's almost 30 points. That's a lot.
Weird.
Here's the other thing. It's his 128th straight game that he has hit a three-pointer. He beat the record set by Kyle Korver at 127. He tied him the other night, and then he passed him last night with 128 consecutive games that he's hit a three-pointer, and he hit 10 last night.
As a person who understands health and the human bodies, how is that possible? Is there a health explanation for that? Is there are there health policy repercussions for this?
Just a half-court shot, probably just luck.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay, good.
Three-point, I guess, skill, but the half-court stuff.
He just hits half-court shots like they're nothing.
Yeah.
That's insane. How does that happen?
He's a freak of nature.
That makes me feel uncomfortable.
If Steph Curry comes to your city, do everything that you can to go see him in person, whether you like sports or not. He's just magnificent to watch.
Interesting. Well,
Jamie's got wisdom.
But I sold those tickets because I made a lot of money on them.
Got it. Okay. Well, anyways, so we have Rachel in studio, which is awesome. And Rachel had a great piece up on National Journal. Was it yesterday, in this past week, looking at comparing Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and where they stand on healthcare, which probably doesn't matter to Steph Curry at all because he's obviously a healthy freak of nature. But for the rest of us with our healthy lifestyles, of course, it's important. So I was wondering if you could just kind of walk us through really quickly what sort of the major differences are between the two. And before we get into that, really quickly, our number is 866-55-PRESS if anybody wants to call and talk about it. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think? What's the best way of explaining the differences between these two?
Well, they both say that they're for universal coverage. They both want as many people covered. They have kind of different prescriptions to get there. Hillary Clinton wants to defend the ACA against Republican repeal efforts and build upon it. Sanders wants his Medicare for All plan, which is a federally administered single-payer plan. And so under that plan, it would be comprehensive coverage for every American, no copays, no deductibles. And he estimates that for a family that makes about $50,000 a year, that'd be $466 per year to pay for that plan. Clinton, on the other side, building on the ACA, she wants to cap prescription drug costs at $250 out of pocket. So that's a big thing people have been talking about. She wants Medicare to be negotiable, which Medicare drug prices to be negotiable, which Sanders wants also. And she has some other proposals. If you get sick, you could go visit a doctor 3 times without having to meet your deductible. So, yeah, some differences there.
Is it realistic to get to universal coverage under the ACA? Is that something health wonks say is feasible, or is that not a thing that's going to happen?
It would be really hard. Right now we have states that haven't expanded Medicaid, so there's a bigger gap in those states. So the plans are very different. Basically, the ACA does kind of inevitably leave some people out, plus the people who decide just not to enroll, and they'll be fined for that. But it is their decision where under Sanders' plan, Americans would get it.
Are there other hindrances to universal health care besides the fact that some states haven't or universal coverage, besides the fact that some states haven't taken the Medicaid expansion? Like, are there when Hillary says we can get to universal coverage under the ACA, besides the Medicaid expansion, are there other major things besides the Medicaid expansion, besides the fact that you're not like gun to your head required to have coverage? Besides those two things, are there major hindrances, like major structural impediments to getting to universal coverage?
Probably some of the biggest impediments to just kind of any plans that Democratic proposals would be Congress. So, we'll see. But right now,
Congress.
Yeah, exactly. That big building.
Those nerds. Huh. Interesting. And one thing you talked about was the National Nurses Union, right? They've been really supportive of Bernie. I know they had a pretty big deployment to Nevada when that caucus was underway. And they're really supportive of Bernie Sanders' plan on healthcare. Do you get a sense of why that is, sort of why certain groups of the medical world come down differently on these policy issues?
Sure. I talked to one of the presidents for National Nurses United, and she was talking about how they've really been supportive of having a universal coverage plan forever. And so, when Sanders came out and running for president and has that plan, they hopped on board because it was something that they had been supportive of even before Sanders came along as a presidential contender.
Do you know if there are any other sort of major health groups that are in the same boat there that sort of break from the fix the ACA approach?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it sort of most of the medical establishment would be on the side of either fix the ACA or wouldn't get as involved in some of the political debates?
There are some groups that have always been supportive of universal coverage. I mean, the ones that have been advocating for it. And other than that, it just kind of depends on what the proposals are. If people want to go for Clinton building upon the ACA, that'd be people who don't want kind of disruptions in coverage, also think that there isn't like the political climate to have a universal coverage for all plan.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess just like the last thing really quickly, are there single issue healthcare voters in the Democratic primary? Like how much, do you get a sense of how significant this discrete issue is as far as Democratic primary voters? Does it make or break for a lot of folks, or do you think people kind of see it as a wash?
The Kaiser Foundation came out with a poll this week, and they said healthcare ranks 4th as an important voting issue. I think that's just kind of for voters for all, but they also had some other kind of interesting numbers for voters overall. They were saying 30% want lawmakers to build on the ACA, 24% want single payer, 16% repeal and replace, which is what Republicans want to do, 13% repeal but not replace.
Oh, interesting. Repeal but not replace. Just go back to 2010, 2009.
I mean, I guess so. Kind of vague, but you know,
repeal, but then the repeal, and then don't do anything. Just kind of see what happens. What was the percent for single payer again?
Was 24%.
And this is nationwide, a national poll, so Republicans and Democrats.
This is Kaiser Family Foundation poll.
So more poll responders want single payer than want repeal and replace. Is that right? Am I remembering those numbers you said right?
Let me see. So that would be
24% for single payer.
Yeah, and then but 16 want repeal and replace, and 13 want repeal but not replace. So that would be 29 against, and then 24% for single payer.
Okay, interesting. But even then, the amount of support for a single payer system is higher than the amount of support for the official Republican talking point on healthcare. Yeah, repeal and replace.
I guess you could say that. That's what they've been talking about a lot, though.
That's an interesting thing. I'm kind of surprised Bernie doesn't talk about that more. That seems like a good factoid, right?
Yeah, I guess he could look at this. That is a new poll.
Well, cool. I'm Betsy Woodruff. Rachel Rubine's here with us in the studio talking healthcare, and we'll be back in a flash.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earthjustice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earthjustice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey guys, we're back. I'm Betsy Woodruff. This is with Rachel Rubin in studio, on Twitter at Rachel Jen. We're just talking about healthcare, Democrats, sort of how questions about universal coverage are impacting the Democratic primary. Last night on the Republican debate stage, healthcare became a pretty big issue. Of course, a slightly different timbre to the debate than on the Democratic side. One of Rubio's first actually interesting and entertaining moments in a Republican debate, in my opinion, when he was sort of going after Trump for not having any details in his healthcare plan, which seems kind of like a large, slow-moving target, and it's weird that nobody before was like, "Hey, so far your healthcare plan is make it terrific." But somebody finally was like, "Oh, yeah, maybe that's not sufficient."
It's interesting to me, right, that like just from a political standpoint, right, that Trump is so beatable, right? Like he is beatable. I mean, we can all see what a flawed candidate he is, and it's taken Rubio a little bit, right? And it's taken Rubio this long to sort of figure out like how to even score any wins.
Maybe
and
I should go
details.
after him on the details of his plan.
Yeah.
Anyway, it got really dramatic and exciting, and we've got a little bit of audio of sort of how that confrontation played out.
Yeah, you gave me $5,000.
You never funded me.
And by the way, let's be clear. Donald claims to care about him.
But he sent me his book with his autograph.
Donald, I understand rules
Mr.
are very
Trump,
hard
you're
for you.
doing
They're
a great
very
job.
confusing.
I have his book.
Okay,
on your reality TV show, not in.
Thank you.
Donald.
Everybody talk at once. Everybody talk at once. Ted Cruz and Donald Trump yelling at each other about what the rules should be is just amazing. Oh yeah, Jamie, can we go to the Rubio-Trump repetition? Because this is a part that's just like especially rich and interesting. Maybe the first little chunk of that.
So that's the only part of the plan? Just the lines, the interstate competition?
The nice part about the plan, you have many different plans. You'll have competition. You'll have so many different plans.
But now he's repeating himself.
No, I'm not repeating. No.
He doesn't understand the difference between like a healthcare plan that you get on and a policy plan for the nation regarding healthcare. Is that right? Is that why Trump is totally confused there? What did you make of that? Of sort of this all the plans smackdown?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was really interesting. I think it was earlier this week, Trump had a tweet about his healthcare plan, basically said, I will replace it with private plans, health savings accounts, and allow purchasing across state lines. So that's the plan in the space of a tweet. So
yeah. Is that a seems like a slightly vague, perhaps? Maybe.
It's been interesting to kind of hear Democrats and Republicans talk about healthcare because Hillary and Bernie now both have pretty detailed plans, and Republicans just kind of talk about repeal and replace a lot without, having as much of a like nitty-gritty policy debate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when they did get into that debate last night over policies, there was a second part of that repetition argument that came up, and that was pretty dramatic.
I watched him repeat himself 5 times 4 weeks ago. And
I saw you repeat yourself 5 times 5 seconds ago.
I watched him.
I like how the audience just loses their minds.
Yeah.
Eyeballs melting.
By the way,
there's just such an appetite for that kind of
yeah,
moment.
I was going to say, the audience this
so
time around has really gotten engaged. I mean, you remember it was either last time around or 2008 that they really tried to curb audience participation.
Yeah.
And so now it's like just over the top, man. It's like a wrestling match.
Tween screaming.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, seriously. It's like One Direction concert, only Marco Rubio instead or something. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting that it took so long to get interesting. Yeah? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that was such an interesting little segment there, and to kind of watch Trump and Rubio and then Cruz and Trump go at it was an interesting night.
Yeah, it was fun. I almost felt a little bit bad for Trump for a second. He sort of got shut down in a way that was almost makes you uncomfortable, you know? Another thing that I liked about watching him was like he sort of stands up on his tiptoes. Did you notice that? Like when somebody starts getting after him, he shrugs his face down and stands up on his tiptoes. Like how tall is this guy? Is he standing on his tiptoes or is it just his normal height? Like I don't know. I'm hoping somebody will Vine or gift that or whatever because it struck me as very important. I'm Betsy Woodruff. This is the Bill Press Show. Thanks for being with us, Rachel.
Thank you, guys.
We'll be back in a little bit.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped, and tied.
Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Help Keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey guys, good morning again. Welcome back to Bill Press Show. In studio, we have Elena Plott from National Review. She's a Buckley Fellow, which is my old gig, so it's really fun having you here. You can give us a call if you would like. Our number is 866-55-PRESS. That's 866-557-7377. We are on the internet, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. You can also watch us live on Free Speech TV, which is also on DirecTV and Dish. And you can listen on our website, which you can find with the helpful assistance of google.com. Elena just got back
Tell me more about this.
I know, it's a search engine.
Google.
I had a journalism textbook in college that had a little section on search engines, and it was search engines are send little robots out scurrying across the web, finding information and bringing it back to you. It's a good research tool.
I'm a search engine hipster. I still use Ask Jeeves.
I helped a teacher grade papers one time, and a student, this was like 5th grade, cited it google.com for a thing, and I was like, you know what, I'm not counting against that because I respect that.
Right, yeah, I'm not even mad.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really good. Cool. Well, you just got back from Nevada, which seems like it was handled really well and professional, and things made sense.
Like, everything was fine.
Everything was totally normal.
As the state party put out, guys, everything was fine. don't look behind you. Everything is fine.
Can you sort of walk people through the Nevada? Because for people who don't follow caucuses, like for people who have normal lives and like healthy work-life balances and weren't up until 1 o'clock in the morning watching CNN on, was it Tuesday? Is that when it was?
Yeah.
Tuesday, I think. One of the days of the week. One of the weekdays, I think.
A few days ago is what I heard.
Yeah. What was? Can you paint us a word picture?
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the reasons you don't hear these things coming out of Iowa that often, and what people forget, is that Iowan caucus goers have been doing this for generations. Essentially, they like grow up, they know about it in their neighborhoods. It's like, what are you doing today? Oh, well, I'm caucusing. As one does. They know how to do this. But for Nevada, this has only been in place since 2008. 2 cycles. Nobody really knows what's going on.
Thanks,
Obama. As ever. So they don't really know what's going on. Romney, for instance, 2012, the only reason he won, I would say, is because you had 25% of turnout being the Mormon population. So that's kind of what Rubio courted really heavily. So it was his to win, I think, or his to lose, rather. But with such a chaotic turnout spurred by the likes of Donald Trump, I think everything went into disarray. People were upset that, people were aggressively counting ballots while also wearing Trump gear. That got called into question.
I think that's so funny. So people like walk into these caucus places and there's like a dude wearing a Trump Make America Great Again t-shirt like, hey, you want to vote?
Yeah.
We're going to count your votes up.
And to be sure, that's legal in the caucus system in Nevada in particular, but it did make a lot of people uncomfortable, called into question voter fraud. I had reports of people going in and saying there were 40 to 50 loose ballots on this table. Somebody wearing a Make America Great Again hat is like looking at ballots, actively deciding whether or not she'd like to place these in the actual envelope.
That's insane.
Yeah. So in a bit of disarray, call me on it now. You can embarrass me later if I'm wrong. Nevada will not be on the early primary calendar in the next cycle.
It shouldn't.
Not.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
And I think also just like caucuses in general, I feel like there's a very compelling case to be made that caucuses are just a bad idea, because if you're going to caucus, it's not like normal voting. It's like you have to be at a specific place that's kind of challenging to track down at a specific time. So I think in Iowa it starts at like 7 p.m. and if you're not in line by 7 p.m., your vote does not count. You do not get to vote, which means you have to get a babysitter.
Right.
You have to park. You have to stand in a gym for a long time.
Wait,
if you're a waiter or if you're an hourly wage earner or something, you're screwed, unless you can get that particular window.
Which is why
off.
Turnout is so unpredictable. And for Nevada, they changed the rules again this year. At least in Iowa, they have it on a Saturday where maybe you could try to finagle something if, you're, like you said, an hourly wage earner during the week, a 9-to-5 worker. But Tuesday evening, who's going to, work that hard to get out? But for Trump voters, I guess that's very important to them.
Same kind of people who like stand in line for 3 hours to listen to a guy talk about bringing back our jobs.
And you mentioned this, even finding a precinct location is not without challenges. Precinct 1033 in Sierra Vista, people showed up and literally there was not a site set up. They're like,
no.
okay, amazing.
What happened? How does that happen? Like, was the website where they were just like, oh, this is gonna be fun, like some intern or something?
Good idea for a practical joke.
Well, here's the thing. So the state party website didn't even have caucus locations up until like the day before or something. So that's why you rely on candidates, and why Rubio is presumed to do so well is because he had a team prepared to identify caucus goers, make sure they knew where to go. But in the end, it didn't even matter because they were like, dude, I showed up. It wasn't even there. So I went home.
Insane. Can you imagine like how we would write about this system if it was used in another country? Like, like if Estonia was voting this way, we would be like, in these far eastern nations, people are told to go vote somewhere, and there's not even a voting site.
Do you have to vote with like a purple finger in Nevada?
Yeah. This Kafkaesque, mysterious, democratic form.
Well, here's another reason to me why it was crazy. So one of the ways they thought they were being really progressive and new age or whatever is that they were like, it's not even a caucus, really. You can just show up and vote and leave, like cast your ballot and leave. You don't even have to caucus. It's like, then just make it a primary.
Right. Then what's the point? And why are you doing this?
Can I make a comment that might be perceived as a little controversial?
Absolutely not. No way.
I think that maybe the caucus system in general is outdated.
It's totally outdated.
Right?
It's horrible.
Like, just in general, like, what would it take, though, to change that?
Well, I mean, okay, after Tuesday, it's like that should be a rhetorical question.
Yeah, sure.
In my mind.
Right.
Like,
right.
There's just, I feel very strongly that nobody on Wednesday morning woke up and was like, that went exceptionally well.
Right, that was
fine.
And this is a good way to pick the leader of the free world. Let's do this again. It's insane. It's insane. It makes zero sense.
It's better than flipping coins.
I mean, and literally, like you were saying, in Nevada, the way the Nevada caucusing system works, it's the same as voting, except you only get to do it for an hour. Yeah. Can you imagine if like let's say the Virginia primary on Super Tuesday, they were like, it's not really a caucus, it's just the only time that you can go and vote is between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. It's cool. It's like this folksy thing that we're doing. There'd be blood in the streets. Justifiably so.
Yeah.
You know, but Nevada is like, oh, we're
Nevada
folksy.
basically was blood in the streets. I mean, people were screaming at each other.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Screaming?
Oh, screaming. And I'm getting texts from Rubio's sources just being like, I have to step outside. What he said to me, he was like, this is like trying to plug holes in the Titanic. You plug in one, 50 more show up. And I've been trying.
I picture the fight scene from Anchorman where it's all like nicely dressed people who just show up for a total rumble.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I mean?
I kept getting sent.
Normally civilized people.
Except plus Trump supporters, too.
Yeah, right. So that's right. That's right.
Perhaps more of the business casual style, the active casual
A business
style.
casual rumble. Yes.
I kept getting GIFs or GIFs. How do you pronounce it?
I say GIF. I've always said GIF.
The correct answer is GIF.
Okay,
Yes.
GIF. I kept getting GIFs sent to me.
Jamie has a thought.
Well, the guy who invented it
here we
said,
go.
No. I say GIFs. The guy who invented it says it's GIF.
GIF.
All right, I'll stop.
Yeah, you know what? Okay.
Sorry, Betsy made this clear. It's a safe and I would like to. I feel a little offended right now.
The correct answer is GIF.
The correct answer
Anyway,
is GIF.
I got tons of gifts sent to me that night of dumpsters on fire. I mean, that I think was the motif of the evening.
America. That's so great.
Peter sends me those gifts every morning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a live shot of Jamie's camera. Just a dumpster
Hi,
fire.
Jamie Cam.
Hashtag Jamie Cam.
That should be a thing.
Yeah, it is.
I'm trying to make it a
I mean,
thing.
he's making it a thing, but it is a thing.
Here's what I think the positive, though, was, like, in all seriousness, about how crazy it was. I think it was a total wake-up call for Marco Rubio, and that's why I think you saw the performance from him.
How so? How so was a wake-up call?
In the sense that he had the team on ground. He has the roots. He has inroads with the Mormon community, people in Las Vegas.
Cool with the
Clark
Mormons.
County. Yeah, he's pretty D for them, I guess. But Clark County makes up 75% of Nevada's population. There is no reason that he should have lost as heavily as he did, when so much of this has to do with turnout. And I think because it was such a blowaway for Trump, I think his team knew, like, we actually maybe should start acting like there is a front runner in this race.
Isn't it a little bit crazy that it took 4 early states for Rubio to get a wake-up call? That's not even a wake-up call. That's like artificial defibrillation.
Well,
right?
I think the reason that you saw Romney, or are seeing him rather, come out in a very Reid-esque, calling on Trump to put out his tax returns, this is a guy who's saying, at this point, I'm better used by going not actively backing a candidate, rather, but going after Trump because I can't count on, the most viable, establishment-laying candidate to do this for me.
And also, if he endorses somebody and then he goes after Trump, he doesn't have the same credibility.
Exactly.
Is anybody having more fun right now than Mitt Romney?
No.
I don't think so.
He's going to be having the time of his life now.
Seriously. He just, wakes up in the morning and, surrounded by gold and picturesque grandchildren, gets on Twitter, tweets something kind of trolly that he thinks up.
Yeah. Logs off, goes back to his loving family.
Takes another Christmas card.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome. Oh, man. What a life. All right, well, this is The Bill Press Show. We're in studio with Elena Plott from the National Review, and we'll be back in literally just 1 second. Stick with us.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
And I'm Betsy Woodruff of The Daily Beast. Guest hosting for Bill Press today, we have Elena Plott in studio. She's a Buckley Fellow at National Review. You can follow her on Twitter, and you definitely should. Elena Plott is her Twitter handle. And I think we're going to spend this next segment talking about Florida men. Yeah?
Yeah.
So Florida has a Senate race coming up. because Marco Rubio is running for president, which means he can't run for Senate anymore.
Indeed.
And there are other elections besides the presidential election. I don't know if people know about this, but like, there's a number of them going on.
That's the read that I get. You know, I thought it was really interesting the minute I started reporting on Nevada. It's like people want to look at my Twitter and things that are happening. It's like the next day, guys, Congress, things are happening. It's like, who are you? What?
Go away.
Yeah.
Shut up, nerd.
Dork. Get lost, dweeb.
Yeah. So this Florida Senate primary.
Yeah.
What is the explanation of the Florida Senate primary that would appeal to people who want to listen to the BP and 3 ADD-addled brain?
Well, I would say that yesterday we probably got the biggest shakeup that we've seen in the race thus
Big
far.
shakeup!
Yeah, it's really
I feel like we should have an
exciting
audio clip for that. Florida Senate race shakeup!
Yeah. We'll have that next time you're back.
Okay.
Have some new imaging.
Jamie's too hungover to deal with that right now.
So right now the field is pretty crowded, but nobody's really been able to emerge from the scrum. And then yesterday we get this multi-millionaire,
Real estate
Manatee
guy,
County.
right?
Yeah. He's a developer. You know, I've heard ballpark he's worth something like $50 million. Gets in this race to kind of be like, you know what, the top guy right now has $2 million in the bank. Like, I spent that yesterday. Why don't I just like get started and run for Senate, as one does. So he's in the race now, and he's got a really great team behind him on Message, which kind of shuttled Rick Scott into the governor's mansion. And if, you know, people will forget at this point because he's such a popular governor in the state, but he was a long shot bid. He was called the unicorn of Florida politics because he was a total self-funder, got in really, really late, was not expected to perform well, and then was just like, I have a lot of money and I'm going to spend it on this race. And that's kind of what this guy wants to do.
But Rick Scott's a lot richer than this guy, right?
Yeah.
'Cause Rick Scott was a billionaire.
Yeah.
This guy is a mere millionaire.
He is a mere millionaire.
I feel like, you know.
So you should feel sorry for him. You know, he's a true outsider, like just like Donald Trump.
Totally. Do we know anything else about him? Any colorful biographical factoids?
So there's not much about his record because he is not a politician. He's just been a developer his whole life. But he was a huge supporter of Charlie Crist. And his opponents are going to allege that he supported Charlie Crist even after he decided to become an independent and contest Rubio in that 2010 race. Everybody hated Charlie Crist after that. I was talking to Rick Wilson, and he's like, Charlie Crist is the most loathed human being in Florida politics. So when you have a guy come on and he's just this past, you know, bundler for someone like Charlie Crist, I mean, they're going to go after that aggressively. And Ron DeSantis, who is kind of the de facto frontrunner because he does have the most money right now. He has backings from people like Adam Laxalt, Steve Wynn, Joe Ricketts, you know, the big money
Joe
men.
Ricketts is the Cubs owner.
Cubs owner, yeah.
So for people who
all
like
the big money
sports
men
games
in Florida
there's a
politics.
sports component to this
yeah.
story.
Oh, I didn't.
Joe Ricketts owns the Cubs, and he's like he's like a billionaire, right? Republican mega donor.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So here's the way I'd put it. You know,
of course, yeah.
If we're gonna,
I totally spaced for a second. I forgot we were talking
sports. If we're gonna sum this up, we're gonna say that in the SEC, for instance, Alabama and Auburn, the Iron Bowl, only game that matters, really. Only game that matters. So right now, I'd say the only two people that matter in this race are Ron DeSantis, who is a current representative.
Yeah.
Another thing about Capitol Hill that people don't pay attention to, he is a representative running for Senate. And
what's a representative again? What is the hill you're talking about? I'm such a nerd, sorry, guys. I had to make jokes about Pizza Ranch.
Ron DeSantis and Carlos Beirut. I'd say that is the Iron Bowl of the Florida Senate race, and everything else is like every other matchup. We
never said
like,
this guy's name. His name is Carlos Beirut. Beirut, right?
Yeah, Beirut.
I think that would be relevant. You know?
Carlos Beirut.
Did we never say his name?
I don't think we said his name at all. Yeah.
Oh, we just called him a millionaire. And like left it at that.
Millionaire Florida man.
Yeah,
I know. Have you guys ever done a segment on something and never mentioned the name of the person you're talking about?
Oh yeah, not like all the time.
Like regular.
No, we just sort of make things up. It's totally okay.
Pronunciation, schmunciation. Cool, good.
Yeah. So, every other matchup, I'd say, even though you've got someone like the Lieutenant Governor running, right? Carlos Lopez Cantera, who's a big Rubio guy. I actually think you might see Rubio endorsing him at some point to help him emerge from the scrum, if that works at all. I don't know. But any other matchup, I'd say, other than Ron DeSantis and Carlos Beirut, is a mere egg bowl among Iron Bowls.
This is so good. Little tied.
Good. What about Democratic side?
Democratic side, so Alan Grayson actually did have a good chance, but now he's kind of besieged in these, or steeped rather, in these accusations that he has used his campaign money to kind of cross over illegally into his congressional day-to-day activities.
And is that like the sexiest allegation against Alan Grayson? I feel like he's kind of he's a curious character, right? And there's a lot of fun stuff to say about Alan Grayson. Okay, we got to go to break. But this has been so fun. Elena Plott, follow her on Twitter at Elena Plott. This is the Bill Press Show, and we'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey guys, this is the Bill Press Show. I'm Betsy Woodruff. I'm sorry I was a little distracted there. We were just looking at this amazing tweet from Donald Trump where, let me read this. Lightweight Marco Rubio was working hard last night. The problem is, and I'm breaking in. This is Betsy, not Donald Trump. Trump is trying to write the word choker, but he spells it chalker. So it reads, the problem is he is a chalker, and once a chalker, always a chalker.
CHOCK.
You spelled it that way 3 times?
Chalker.
All 3 times.
Chalker.
Consistently. What's going on?
Hey, I'll say this. Like, Donald Trump is clearly one of the worst people on the planet. But boy, does he make me laugh.
Boy, is this good stuff.
I mean, when he called Mitt Romney goofy the other day, when he met Mitt Romney, he was so goofy.
He was so goofy and awkward. I knew he would never win.
It's like the greatest. I mean, it's...
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's really, really good. But yeah, I can't get over this choker thing. How do you not know how to spell choker?
Choker.
How do you? And it's also a good reminder that literally, oh, you know what, JB? I was incorrect. He only spelled it choker the third time. The first 2 times he spells it CHOKER, and then he spells it CHOCKER. So I guess he only misspelled it once, which is still hilarious.
Like a crock pot full of chili, a choker.
Totally.
The third time's the charm.
Third time's
a little
the charm.
pop there at the end.
Nailed it.
just keep you on your toes, just to add a little extra value. This is the Bill Press Show. I'm Betsy Woodruff. We have another great hour coming up in just a little bit featuring Daniel Strauss and Burmese desserts. Stick with us, and we'll be back really soon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors. You're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earthjustice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earthjustice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And I'm Betsy Woodruff of The Daily Beast, in for Bill Press. Good morning. We are in the last hour of our show. It's going to be a really great hour, a lot to look forward to. We have Toly Moly coming in, two women who run a food pop-up in DC that has that's selling a Burmese dessert that I do not understand, but I'm really excited about. But for the next 30 minutes, we've got Daniel Strauss of Politico in studio to talk about his really interesting reporting. We're Bill Press Show. You can check us out on the internet, billpressshow.com. We are live on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. You can and definitely should follow us on Twitter at BP Show. You can give us a call if you have any thoughts or feelings that you'd like to share. 866-55-PRESS. That's 866-557-7377. Peter Ogburn is our executive producer, but he just had to dash because he got a flight. So it's kind of like a...
He bailed on us.
Yeah, he basically gave us the keys to the car. So bummer for you, Peter.
It's going to get dangerous.
I know. It's going to be... at the least, it'll be really interesting. Jamie Benson is running the board.
Hey, Betsy.
Hey, Jamie. How's it going?
I'm great.
You feeling any better?
No, not really, but, I'm maintaining.
Good spirits.
Yeah, the congressional dinner last night, Peter and I went, and we had a lot of fun, and a lot of drinks.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are, fighting the good fight. to think in complete sentences. That's good. Ray Rogers is screening the calls, so if you want to give us a call, 866-55-PRESS, you can talk to Ray, who is really delightful, and Cyprian Bolding is the video operator. We have a really exciting hour of radio coming up, and first...
This is the Full Court Press.
All right, I'll take the reins on this segment with Peter out. Just a couple of other stories for you on this Friday morning. A new study from UCLA, the Ralph J. Bunche Center for African American Studies, to be precise. They analyzed the top 200 films from 2014, so 2 years ago, to figure out the median global earnings by diversity categories. So that goes all the way from 0 non-white actors in the top 8 stars to more than 5. They found that the highest grossing grouping, with 4 of 8 actors being non-white, had a median ticket revenue of $122.2 million. That includes both Annie and Big Hero 6. So the big key here is movies with diverse casts actually make more money.
Crazy.
We got the Oscars coming up this weekend.
Thought that? That's nuts.
So good news for folks who are waging the good fight when it comes to the Oscars So White campaign. And how excited are you guys for Chris Rock's opening monologue on Sunday night?
Highly excited. That's the adverb I would use. What adverb would you use, Daniel?
What?
Not very. Daniel's adverb is not very.
All right. Sorry. Hi, guys.
Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Betsy.
Daniel's working on his copy.
Moving on. On The View yesterday, do you guys ever watch The View in the mornings?
Never, literally never.
No.
But maybe I should.
Neither do I. We talk sometimes on the show about The View because there's only really one good thing about The View. Well, 2 good things. There's Joy Behar, who is genuinely a very good TV host, and then there's the absurdity of one Raven Simone from That's So Raven fame.
I love That's So Raven.
Yesterday on The View, Raven Simone declared that she would leave the United States for Canada if a Republican is nominated.
A Republican is nominated?
Wow.
Not elected, in a general election, nominated.
Wow.
Raven Simone.
That's quite a statement.
Here's the thing with Raven is that
You're welcome, Canada.
Exactly. When she makes these statements, she's just so confident about it. She feels as though like she knows exactly what she's talking about. I don't think she really got called out, right? Ray was the one who shared this with me.
Well, Jamie, in her defense, some Republicans say Donald Trump isn't a Republican, so...
This is a very good point.
Yeah, it was probably a sophisticated comment about the nature of the Republican Party in 2016. Okay, Jamie.
All right. And finally, out of Bernie Sanders' home state of Vermont, we have a story of a second grader who was in class one morning last week and started telling a story to his classmates, and of course his teacher was overhearing this, about a farmer growing special medicine plants. What do you think happened next?
The teacher, I don't know.
Windsor detective Jennifer Frank in White River Junction, Vermont, said in an affidavit that the 8-year-old told school officials and police that he got to help his mother's boyfriend grow, quote, special medicine that can cure anything at all. So, of course, the boy's story in his second grade class led to a drug bust.
Nice.
The mother and her.
This is the plot
that kid,
of...
a little narc.
This is the plot of Half-Baked 2.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
They found 2 grow rooms right next to the kid's bedroom.
Oh, that's sad. That's a bummer. That's like, don't grow pot next to your kid's bedroom.
No.
Grow it in the basement.
Exactly. That's all I got.
Cool. Good stuff. So, we have Daniel Strauss in the studio. You can follow him on Twitter at Daniel Strauss. You can also follow me at Woodruff Betts. You can also follow Bill Press Show at BP Show. By the way, if Twitter has totally wrecked your attention span so much that you have trouble paying attention to 3 hours of radio, I have great news for you. You can listen to our entire show condensed into 3 minutes called BP in 3. It is on SoundCloud, and you can also find links to that just magical 3 minutes of radio joy on the Bill Press Show Twitter. Just another reason to give it a follow. Anyway, Daniel's here. Daniel has a really interesting, slightly dramatic inside the Beltway story about the RNC and Donald Trump. Some of the interesting, I don't know if tension is the right word, but interesting dynamics there. Can you sort of walk us through this report that you've got up right now?
Yeah, so essentially what we reported over a longer period of time than you'd think is that the RNC and Republican National Committee Chairman Reince Priebus has privately been saying that if Donald Trump or some other candidate who has a habit of raging against the establishment is the nominee.
What? Is that a thing? Who are these guys?
These are two highly potentially outspoken candidates for president of the United States.
That doesn't sound right.
Essentially, top Republican officials, including the chairman himself, have quietly been saying that if there is a nominee like that, they will be able to negotiate and over some sort of tactics in the general election by reminding said nominee that the RNC has a number of tools at its disposal, including resources like data and manpower and access to
media
donors.
operations.
Media operations.
Basically, the RNC
The RNC,
giveth and
right.
the RNC taketh
so
away.
Officials stress that this is not a hostage-taking situation. It's a partnership, and that's what Chairman Priebus said yesterday afternoon on CNN. Essentially, that the eventual nominee is joining the Republican Party, and the Republican Party, led by the RNC, has a number of tools at its disposal. You're
joining the Republican Party, and the Republican Party has tools at its disposal that we will work with you in partnership together. As long as you're a good partner, we're not taking you hostage. Everybody be cool.
Everybody be cool.
That seems like the basic gist of it, right?
Right. There's some skepticism about this. National committees are usually, at least they like to publicly and officially say they are subordinate to the nominee for president and they are a tool at their disposal.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are.
So, I mean, it's hard to imagine the RNC and Trump ever having any conflicts about anything, though. So this will certainly never come up, right?
Right. Well, the RNC is the establishment. And Trump, for instance, has raged multiple times about the establishment. And there are a lot of establishment Republicans, Mitt Romney, for an example, that are happy to go toe-to-toe with Trump. So there is pressure among leaders of the establishment to make sure that Trump does not run the entire table in the Republican Party in D.C.
That could definitely never happen, though. That's a crazy idea.
1 year ago, everybody was counting Trump out. Now it seems almost inevitable.
I mean, can we talk about that? Can we talk about this inevitability thing? Because at what point, what more does he need to do before we can fairly characterize him as the presumptive nominee?
We've started calling him the front runner.
Yeah, front runner definitely.
Right,
he's been front runner for.
I mean, the one thing that I think you hear a lot is that a brokered convention is still possible, and there are a number of candidates that other political forces like Marco Rubio, who seems to trot out just a handful of new members of Congress, a handful of members of Congress who have endorsed him every day, would prefer someone else. That said, Trump is the favorite to win a number of states on Super Tuesday. He, as he proudly said last night during the last Republican debate, he's winning among big, important subsets like women and actually minority voters in states like Nevada. So it's hard to imagine his momentum slowing anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that's true, which is a little crazy to think about, you know? Anyway, if anybody has thoughts on that, feel free to give us a call, 866-55-PRESS. That's 866-557-7377. Yeah, I like this. I'm so torn about the right way to talk about this, and I think part of it is because at the debate last night, it was sort of a good reminder that there are actually other human beings running for president. And
you wouldn't know that Carson is on there, right?
God,
like
bless
every
his
few
heart.
minutes, he's like, "Oh, is it my turn?" What did he ask? He asked,
"Can somebody please attack me? I just want to talk." Oh, by the way, do you know this phrase? We were talking about this earlier. Do you know this phrase, fruit salad life? He talked about judging somebody based on the fruit salad.
Let's play this again.
Okay, let's play it again. Yeah, we have audio. It's really good.
I would go through and I would look at what a person's life has been. What have they done in the past? What kind of judgments have they made? What kind of associations do they have? That will tell you a lot more than an interview will tell you. The fruit salad of their life is what I would look at.
Is that a thing?
I mean,
it's
I
about
Googled
to be
it.
a thing.
I Googled it, and there's a website called fruitsaladlife.com, and it's like about detoxing and being healthy, and like fruit is good for you, which is not something I'd given a lot of thought to. So thanks, Dr. Carson, I guess. But no.
Nature's candy.
Yeah.
Fruit.
Nature's candy. I don't know. Yeah, you guys don't have any insight on what a fruit salad
No,
is.
that was
It's
complete. I will tell you that in the Politico newsroom, we were surprised by that phrase, and we're sort of puzzled by that one.
Well, I hope there are some good think pieces on it.
Like
that's anytime, whenever these
All of them
debates
will
are-
be on BuzzFeed.
Yeah,
I gotta
totally.
confess, Betsy, that I'm really behind on phrases. Like I just learned the other day, "Damn Daniel."
Damn Daniel.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
like
that
an
one.
it's what the kids are saying now.
Really?
Yeah, it's like an internet meme.
What a damn Daniel.
It's this little like vine that
Betsy, you missed Damn Daniel?
Yeah.
Whoa.
God
it was
damn
huge
it.
last week.
I
I didn't
was-
think it was that funny, though.
What does
I
it
didn't
mean?
get it.
What does it mean? I'm so old. Is this what it
It's
feels
just
like
it's
to
just
be
an expression
old?
of positive surprise, I guess.
So it's like by Felicia, except for not.
This kid just kept filming his friend every day coming to school and filming the shoes and acting like he was really impressed by the shoes. And there's a big line where he says, "Damn Daniel, back at it again with the white Vans." See,
Wow.
it's so hard to
Okay.
explain.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
does
I
that
feel like
mean?
there's something lost in translation. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe Damn Daniel has a really good fruit salad life or something.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's good. Interesting. Cool. Well, this is the Bill Press Show. I'm Betsy Woodruff in the studio with Daniel Strauss. We'll be back in just a minute.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
And I'm Betsy Woodruff of the Daily Beast, guest hosting for Brill this morning. We are in studio with Daniel Strauss, who, funny story, I accidentally gave his wrong Twitter handle. It's actually Daniel Strauss 4, the number 4. You can still feel totally free to follow Daniel Strauss on Twitter. We think he's a cool guy. But if you're interested in more insights of the type that we've gotten from our guest this morning, you should be following Daniel Strauss 4. We were talking a little bit during the break about the debate last night and this super fun moment with Ted Cruz going after Donald Trump. It was sort of the pile on Trump debate, and one of the really standout sections is right here.
In 2013, when I was leading the fight against the Gang of Eight amnesty bill, where was Donald? He was firing Dennis Rodman on Celebrity Apprentice.
That's pretty good.
You burnt.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And was that the first time Dennis Rodman's ever come up in a presidential debate?
I doubt it, actually. I bet he's come up before. I really do.
You think so?
But I can't think of a time.
He is an important.
So do you think that'll
national figure.
stick, Betsy? I mean, do you think?
I don't think it sticks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously a good little zinger, and the Cruz people can tweet it out and send cut video and send it for a press release and stuff. But I mean, Trump supporters like him because of Celebrity Apprentice. Like, they know him from watching him on
They think
TV.
he's funny.
Yeah, that's a feature, not a bug. Yeah, more people know who Dennis Rodman is than
last
know
night
who
was
John
just
Casey
a big
is.
oppo dump on Donald Trump. It was just Senator Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz just throwing everything they had at him.
There was Huffington Post story that came out this week that reported, and I haven't seen anyone contravene this, that no Republican campaign has done a serious oppo researching project on Trump. And for people who don't follow some of the way that this politics industry works, oppo research is basically when a campaign does a journalist's job. Pretty much, right? Like that's the explanation. Like when campaigns and
we see you out there, operatives. We know your pain.
You guys. We see you guys. When political campaigns and operatives and parties hire people who are really good at researching to basically dig through a candidate's internet garbage, go through every single entry on LexisNexis, gather the information, collate the information, and then if a candidate says something that, for instance, contradicts something he or she has said in the past, or if it turns out there's something weird or funny or awkward about a candidate's past, then they send it out to reporters and get reporters to write about it. And nobody's done that about Donald Trump. Another candidate, though, that nobody's really done that about is Bernie Sanders. Can we talk about Bernie Sanders in South Carolina?
Bernie Sanders in South Carolina.
What are you expecting to see there?
I'm expecting Bernie, despite his sincere efforts to not win a significant portion of the African American vote. And this has been crucial, not only in the South Carolina Democratic primary, but really going forward in the primary. And look, Hillary Clinton has a big chunk of establishment black Democrats who are backing him. And Sanders trots out former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner and Killer Mike all the time, but it doesn't really seem to be resonating.
Right. Killer Mike resonates with me, but I'm not an African-American South Carolina Democratic primary voter.
So here's the crazy part, though. Like in border states or states bordering on the South, Bernie is still winning huge crowds. They had a gigantic mass of people come to Sanders in Oklahoma, and there's polling showing he's doing really well in West Virginia.
There's even a total gigantic mass of people in Oklahoma, period.
Right, that's
everybody in Oklahoma
thing.
Go to his thing.
So here's the thing about this. These states are states that bucked Obama in 2012, and they just don't like the establishment Dem candidate. So, and here's your anti-establishment Dem candidate this time.
Wait,
Cranky.
they bucked Obama in 2012?
I think
like they didn't,
so. Remember,
like they
so
weren't
there
as
was in West Virginia. There was the
Oh yeah, they voted for the guy who was in prison.
yeah, the
Yep.
guy who was in prison who had like a David Crockett.
Did that guy beat Obama in West
I think
Virginia?
he did.
I think he did.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So there's
What
there's a
state.
precedent for this.
Man, what a time! And Bernie's like lucky if he only loses African American voters in South Carolina by 2-1, right?
Right.
Like that's like those are the margins we're talking about. Do you have any sense of why Hillary Clinton has so much overwhelming support there?
She's got a history with him. I mean, Bill Clinton's name among black voters is a big, big thing in South Carolina. There's still, remember that thing, Bill Clinton was the first black president.
Yeah.
I think that still resonates among a lot of voters there. And the Sanders campaign has tried to win over young black voters in the South. I don't know how well it's going to go.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting challenge. So I guess we'll find out on Saturday, right? Saturday's the day. This is the Bill Press Show. I'm Betsy Woodruff of the Daily Beast, guest hosting for Bill Press. We have Daniel Strauss in studio, which is super fun. We'll be back in just a minute. Follow us on Twitter @BP Show and stick around for more.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So,
I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
And I'm Betsy Woodruff of the Daily Beast, guest hosting for Bill Press this Friday morning. We have such an exciting half hour coming up because in studio we have the founders and co-owners of Toli Moly, Jocelyn Layon, also known as Chef Jojo, and Simone Jacobson. And you guys, tell us what's going on. You brought in these crazy and really cool looking dessert tasty things. I don't know what the term is. Faluda. Can you tell me about them? What is this?
Should I tell them?
Yeah.
So I'm originally from Burma, and this is something that people go and have just for like a little sweet treat, before a show, with your daughter, with your grandma, and it's street food. Really. But it's something that, everybody looks forward to and goes and just has just for a little fun thing. So you're actually supposed to drink, sip, scoop with it. And it actually, I think, originated somewhere maybe in Iran or somewhere, and it just spread all over from Saudi Arabia all over the world. And so many people in different countries have some version of it.
Okay.
And so when we said we were going to start this, all my energy went into actually reproducing the syrup, because the syrup that everybody uses all over the world, you keep in your pantry for years. It stands by itself in a way. And it just sort of, tastes a little bit like gasoline sometimes. So what I wanted to do was, of course, this is not a diet drink, but I wanted to have something, very natural, with natural ingredients. So the idea was to make this syrup to look like that lovely, rich ruby color.
Yeah.
But make it out of real fruit.
Okay.
And make the consistency and everything to make it look like that one thing that everybody recognizes as part of Faluda.
So, because this is radio, can you describe for people what Faluda is? Yeah, what the layers are. It looks like a parfait. It's really tasty. What flavor? Yeah, can you describe what a Faluda is?
So
it go layer by layer. Yeah.
Should I with mine? Okay, because mine's not going to be exactly like anybody else's. I'm not really trying to reproduce anything. So the first layer is what I call a jelly, and I think of them as my little, gems, my little rubies. So it's pomegranate ginger that I make by myself.
And it's like a gelatin. It's like a gelatin.
Yes,
sort of, yeah?
That's right. The next layer is something that many people who make Faluda actually include, which is a noodle. But I made it sort of like a rice pudding, so that has that, nice kind of consistency. So it's like a noodle pudding. The next layer is basil seeds, which is a superfood.
I thought that was chia. It's not chia. It's basil seeds.
Not
It's my favorite part, by the way.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be really good for your digestion, and I'm testament to that because I taste it all the time. And it does, if you're even a little lactose intolerant, I think this has been really good for me. The next layer is ice cream.
Nice.
And on top of it, we have some milk, and we have almond slivers, and we have pumpkin seeds.
On top. And then drizzled on top and also in the bottom is the homemade rosewater syrup.
That's so interesting.
So it's really complex, but it also our version of Fuda is the first that I know of anywhere in the world that is focused on using mostly natural ingredients. So Fuda in the rest of the world, like my mom said, is a street food. But for us, we're trying to elevate this into something that we feel confident. We want people to be able to feast with confidence. So it's something that we'll feed to my niece, her granddaughter, right? It's something that I want to be able to share with other people and be able to say, this is a delicious dessert drink. It's a treat. It's a snack. So we're all about snack time. We're all about bringing people together to snack together, to spend time together, to not have to go out and necessarily spend a lot of money. You know, you and I can sit down and enjoy a Fuda and not have to break the bank, but also know that each layer is really constructed with a lot of love and a lot of care.
And it's not totally junk food, right?
It's
obviously
definitely not
vegetables, but there's some good stuff.
And it's not too sweet, I hope.
No.
It's not. Like, I don't get that at all. So, Betsy, I have to admit, we've been talking about how hungover I am on the show this morning. I asked Simone before they came in, I said, is this going to be good for a hangover? Because I knew I was going to the dinner or whatnot. And she said, absolutely. And you wouldn't think something with dairy in it is good for hangovers, but I'm here to fully endorse. I already feel better.
Wow.
Plus, it's delicious.
Well, also, I think that's important that you said that, too, in terms of how you feel when you eat it. A lot of people, two things that stand out to me when we've been doing a lot of tasting, friends and family. We had our first pop-up at Eats Place at the end of January. We're going to be at Ramen World this weekend.
Love Eats Place.
And one of the things that stands out to me that people who've been tasting it say is, it tastes like home. Because the rosewater flavored and scented desserts are something very, very universal. And on top of that, they say, it makes me happy. It makes me happy to eat it. And it's
so
a fun dessert.
nice.
It's
Yeah.
fun to look at. It's fun to play with. It's fun to slurp and scoop. And I think that the other difference between this and, let's say, a parfait or a milkshake, people say, oh, is it like this? Is it like that? It's the human instinct to compare. But this is really so unique because the actual dairy content is very minimal. Of course, there's a little scoop of ice cream in there and there's a little bit of milk, but the density of each layer is such that the liquid is really there just to be able to play and stir and get all of the textures and flavors mixed. It's not a very dairy-heavy drink.
Huh. So if you're not a dairy person, you could probably even leave the ice cream off, right?
You could,
Maybe.
and also we're working on, we had a vegan flavor at Eats
Oh,
Place,
cool.
so we have a
Neat.
mango mogul that's a vegan flavor, completely top to bottom, and we used a sorbet instead of an ice cream, and
we
also
use agar-agar for the gelatin, so there's no gelatin in it.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
And then the coconut almond milk substitute.
I feel like kids would really like this too.
They
love it.
Our niece sometimes calls it Maya shake. Her name is Maya.
Oh,
so she says
Fuda.
That's so nice. Oh,
Is it easy to find, like, across America? Obviously, we're a nationally syndicated radio show. We're on DirecTV, Dish TV, so a lot of folks from across the country watching and listening. Is it easy to find? Is it just in big cities, or are we seeing it now spread even further beyond
It's
that?
sort of a random thing. If you're really, hungry for Fuda, like this little treat, right? Whether it's after a night of drinking or before drinking or, before a show, you think, oh, I want some Fuda. It's not usually on a menu. You might find it in an Indian restaurant randomly with some other,
Yeah,
desserts.
like when I was in Wisconsin, there was a restaurant and there was a little note that said, Fuda, order 24 hours in advance. And I had to ask them like a whole day in advance, and I was the only person in the restaurant eating it like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And they were so confused. Like, why does this girl want this Fuda? And, it takes time to make everything. And also, the funny thing about that question is that if you go anywhere else in the world, right, anywhere in the Middle East, Dubai, or, all throughout Iran, it's not exactly the same, but it's the same principle of a dessert with basil seeds and noodles and rose water is kind of the general elements that are repeated. Anywhere else in the world, it is so common. When I asked my friends, I said, we're starting to make Fuda. Do you know what that is? And all my Indian, Pakistani friends, of course we know what that is. But everybody else, we've been joking, it's the best dessert you've never had because this part of the world, in the United States, the only people that would know to go after, seek out, eat, and find Fuda would be people who are either from Southeast Asia and the Middle East or in general not here, or who, you know, have traveled there and have been looking for that taste. When we did our pop-up, there was this couple from Jordan, and they said they were the first to come in, and they left for 10 minutes. They came back and they ordered more because they were just like, we can't get this anywhere. We want it. We get these emails, all caps, where are you? Where do we find you? You know, we have these college students in the area whose parents are maybe from that part of the world, or they were born there. And as soon as they see that we're starting to build our presence here in DC, they're like, where are you? Where can we find you? We want Faluda.
But, you know, we have even like people from the Midwest or Serbia or, you know, places where, never tried anything like this. You know, with their first few spoons, they say, it's just sort of a knee-jerk reaction, you know, no matter how old they are, I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, this makes me happy. It's something that's sort of, you know, sweet and a little bit strange to them. Like, why am I eating something?
Why am I eating Jell-O and basil? I
And
don't know how I feel about this at first.
It's an alien to me. But even they are not so, you know, they're not going to turn away from it. You know, it's just, once they try it, which has really been wonderful to see, not just people familiar with it, but people who say, you know, I would eat this. You know, I would go out and
it is
look
that.
for it.
It's familiar and it's also new. And that's what I think is really exciting about it, because that sort of defines, I think, this whole first generation of kids like me whose parents are born somewhere else. We're looking for those things that are familiar to us, but how do we share them with other people that have never had them? If it's new for you, you know, would you go back for a second bite?
Right.
And that's why we spent almost 8 months developing these syrups from scratch, rather than just using, I mean, a lot of people will say, just get the syrup off the shelf, but we felt so strongly that we didn't want to serve that.
This has to be the kind of thing where if the syrup's bad, it's not good at all. I
No,
would think,
I-
right?
I
Because
mean,
this is delicious,
good.
but like I feel like if it was really cloying and sweet, I wouldn't want to eat it.
Well,
But
actually,
it's really tasty.
that original syrup is koi. And people get hooked on it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like eating donuts. You know,
Oh,
you're not
nice.
supposed
Okay,
to eat
well,
it.
I'm guilty.
McDonald's or, you know, any junk food.
Yeah,
But see,
yeah.
this is not a junk food, it's a snack food. And there's
Okay.
a difference. You know, we've been joking
Yeah.
because in America, so much of snack culture, it's like, you know, Netflix and chill is actually about hiding, right? It's like, I want to be in secret eating a bag of Cheetos and not tell anyone. Whereas we don't think that snack time is something you should be ashamed of. It's something
Yeah.
to be shared. And that, I think,
I
is
like
a
that.
big difference, that it's not junk food, it's a snack food. And snacks don't have to be something to be ashamed of by yourself.
Interesting. And really quickly, because we've got about a minute left, where can people find your shop in DC?
So we are currently popping up. We are working to open a store within the year. And our next pop-up is going to be at Thipcow, which is in Columbia Heights, 3462 14th Street Northwest. We'll be there from 3 to 10 p.m. They're giving us full reign. So we're taking over Thipcow on March 29th.
March 29th, Thipcow, 3 to 10 p.m.
Yes.
Very cool. And for people who don't live in DC and who want to try this, how would you recommend they track some down? If you're in, I don't know, LA or Houston or somewhere else around the country, how would they track it
Does
down?
Chef JoJo make house calls?
To San Francisco.
They fly you
Maybe
out. Why
to
not?
Paris.
Okay, Paris is on the table, but not San Francisco.
I don't think it's something that's sort of, you know, readily available
Not
in
yet.
one particular place.
Yeah.
So
they're gonna have to make
they're
friends
gonna
with
have to wait.
with some Burmese or some Indian people in their
Yeah.
community, and wait for Toli Moli to get to their city.
Nice.
Yes.
Perfect.
Before we go, I have one more thing. I have a marketing idea for you guys.
Okay.
So Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's, right? He came up with a presidential ice cream flavor for Bernie Sanders, Bernie's Yearning. You guys need to come up with a presidential Faluda flavor.
Dude,
so
really?
stew on that.
It's just about time. We're gonna be thinking about it. Well, we have Ramen World this Sunday, so our brains are a little bit tied up in that. But after Ramen World, we're gonna get started on.
We have more ideas than we need right now. We will definitely come up with that.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. This was delicious. And I wish you guys so much luck with getting the store open.
Thank you. I hope you come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I live in Petworth, so Columbia Heights is like
okay.
super close. Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Betsy.
I'm Betsy Woodruff. This is the Bill Press Show, and we'll be back right after this.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
on opening body bags after Typhoon Haiyan. I can only imagine it like unearthing a scab. Zipper breaks open one by one. Mothers trying to dig through themselves an umbilical cord to lend life to a limp ghost. There is not enough relief here to hide the scent of what this child used to be. The coconut trees are not high enough to see over the inside out that was made here. Bags do not have the honor of being called burial plots. Churches ain't supposed to be mausoleums. Tacloban was morphed into ground zero. And I watch this while it snows in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where it's easier to live as a rodent than it is to be a colored person. This place drowns my people in a different way. I inhabit both places like jigsaw corpse trying to find itself whole. These brown boys in Tacloban aren't my cousins, but I want to carry them to safety. These brown girls in Tacloban aren't my daughters, but I want to tell them they're still growing after this choking, but I'm still an ocean away, a language farther from root, a skin tone lighter than the sand, born there, raised here, home nowhere. To watch this storm is a sorry excuse for mourning. It is to need the sun desperately. It is to realize that your body is in one country while your grief is in another. To look at your house, walk to a river, and come back to no house is to be Filipino. To look at your motherland hurting from a TV screen is to be Filipino American. To watch my islands through the blue eyes of Anderson Cooper is the most American I have ever felt, but I still cry for them, and I still pray for them, because God tried to make them Atlantis before they were ready to be a myth just yet, because rebuilding is the Filipinos' most intrinsic muscle memory, but most painful trauma, because relief is just a word whose Tagalog translation I don't even know, because this poem is all I can give for my country, bleeding in salt water. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord keeps trying to drown us. Hallowed be thy bodies. Thy kingdom come down in waves and winds on earth as it is destroyed. Take us this day our daily rations, and forgive those who have tried to kill us as we forgive those who have tried to kill us. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us whose skin has always meant sin now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey guys, I'm Betsy Woodruff of the Daily Beast, guest hosting for Bill Press. So we just had the most fun segment that I hope you guys got to hear with these two wonderful women who are working on opening a Fuda shop in DC. And it's a really interesting reminder just of how much immigrant communities shape the way that we live and the way that our world works. They were telling me that they had a pop-up for this Fuda dessert. Fuda is something I've never heard of in my life until like the other day.
I hadn't either.
No, yeah,
Before
Jamie,
Simone
yeah.
told me about
You guys
it,
were like, oh, we're doing a segment on Fuda. I'm like, oh, awesome. Good thing I know literally zero things about that. But it's so good. And what kind of surprised me a little bit was that they said that when they had a pop-up in DC, like a little one afternoon, just for a couple hours of making Fuda, they said like 400 people came.
It was packed.
Did you
go?
go?
I was there, yeah.
That's
it was packed.
amazing.
And like sometimes you'd want to complain about something like that, but personally, I've known Simone for a number of years, but like it was just a great feeling. Everybody was incredibly happy, and ultimately, it was just a wonderful snack, as we're calling it.
Yeah.
Not junk food, snack.
Right, exactly. And it's interesting, like there's such a demand for it, right? And it's a reminder of just how diverse the DC area is, and how fast the immigrant community is growing and changing DC in ways that are like really cool and exciting.
It's not just all about politics around here.
Yeah, totally.
Got to keep reminding people that.
Yeah, I know. And I think that's something that we forget when we talk about the immigration debate, or that we can sometimes lose sight of when we talk about the immigration debate, is that it's really easy, especially for me, like as a reporter, to kind of get tunnel vision on these issues and sort of zero in on white papers and policy statements, and let's compare what they said in 2016 to what they said in 2015 to, minutiae of the Gang of Eight bill. And all those things are really important, really worth talking about, valuable, interesting, of great consequence. But you have to remember that, like, we're talking about people, right? And we're talking about culture and about food and sex. So it's just a good reminder of that. I mean, we mentioned a little earlier in the show, Donald Trump talking in the debate last night about how he had to hire immigrants because Americans didn't want to work in hot weather, which first is just like a completely ridiculous thing to say all on its face. And obviously a massive flip-flop for Trump based on previous statements he's made about immigrants and working. But it's also just like it's just a curious thing to say, because why would you talk about people and communities in a way that's like so commoditizing and so, I don't know, inhumane and impersonal. So anyway, there's a lot of food for thought, if you will.
Oh, Betsy.
I know.
Hey, so speaking of, I don't
here.
think we've like explicitly addressed this yet. Do we have winners and losers from last night's debate?
Oh, the conventional
quickly.
wisdom winner is Rubio, but like unless his poll numbers go up, I don't think you can say he won.
Did the moderators lose?
I thought the moderators were
I didn't
great.
watch enough.
I liked the moderators because they let the guys just like yell at each other and like rip each other's hair out and basically did zero refereeing, which I thought made it a lot more entertaining and fun. So I support that. I think like minimal moderation is the best way to do it. But others may not agree. Others who may not agree are wrong. My name is Betsy Woodruff, Daily Beast, and for Bill. We'll be back in a little bit.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
"21. My father is run over by a car. He's passed out in the road with a blood alcohol content 4 times the legal limit. I do not cry. 4 months later, the nurses lose his pulse, and I wonder whose life flashed before his eyes. Rewinding VHS tapes, old home videos. 20. 19. I haven't brought a friend home in 4 years. 18. My mother sips the word divorce. Her mouth curls at the taste like it burns going down. 17. I start doing homework at Starbucks. I have more meaningful conversations with the barista than with my family. 16. I wait for Christmas Eve. My brother and I usually exchange gifts to one another early. This year, he and my father exchange blows. My mother doesn't go to Mass. 15, I come up with the theory that my father started drinking again because maybe he found out I'm gay. Like, if he could make everything else blurry, maybe somehow I'd look straight. 15. My mother cleans up his vomit in the middle of the night and cooks breakfast in the morning like she hasn't lost her appetite. 15. I blame myself. 15. My brother blames everyone else. 15. My mother blames the dog. 15. Super Bowl Sunday, my father bursts through the door like an avalanche, picking up speed and debris as he falls. Banisters, coffee tables, picture frames, tumbling, stumbling. I find his AA chip on the kitchen counter. 14. My father's been sober for 10, maybe 11 years. I just know we don't even think about it anymore. 13. 12. 11, Mom tells me Daddy's meetings are for AA. She asks if I know what that means. I don't. I nod anyway. 10. My parents never drink wine at family gatherings. All my other aunts and uncles do. I get distracted by the TV and forget to ask why. 9. 8. 7. 6. I want to be Spider-Man. Or my dad. They're kind of the same. 5. 4. 3. I have a nightmare. The recurring one about Ursula from The Little Mermaid. So I get up. I waddle toward Mommy and Daddy's room, blankie in hand. I pause. Daddy's standing in his underwear, silhouetted by a refrigerator light. He raises a bottle to his lips. 2. 1. 0. When my mother was pregnant with me, I wonder if she hoped, as so many mothers do, that her baby boy would grow up to be just like his father.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm Betsy Woodruff of the Daily Beast, and for Bill will be back on Monday. We have an important developing news story. Peter made it to the airport. He got to the airport at 8:40 for a 9:20 flight. I would have an emotional meltdown if I got to an airport 40 minutes before my flight took off.
He left here at around 8:10.
Yeah.
Not too bad traffic getting to National, but I was really hoping he learned his lesson because Betsy, both you and I have anxiety when it comes to stuff like this. He
so much anxiety.
Proved us wrong.
I slipped through a flight one time, actually. It was a flight out of Reagan. Yeah, it was real bad. I think it was like last year. I was going to Wisconsin for something. It was a flight out of Reagan that departed at like 6. I set my alarm, hit snooze, slept right the hell through it. I had to call Delta that morning. I was like, please put me on an airplane. Do it for the First Amendment. I'm just trying to speak truth to power. I really need to go to Wisconsin. So they were like, okay, can you be at Reagan in an hour? And I was like, God will help me. I will be there. I'm Betsy Woodruff. Thanks to Lucia Graves at Lucia_Graves, Rachel Rubine at Rachel_Jen, Elena Plott at Elena Plott, Daniel Strauss at Daniel Strauss 4. I'm Betsy Woodruff. This has been our show. Thanks for listening.
This is the Bill Press Show.